Well, thank you, Craig. I was talking to my wife this morning, telling her, reminding her I got our annual meeting tonight. It's kind of a big deal for us in the co-op and a big deal for me. I got to get up here and address the membership. And she looks at me and she says, "You'll be fine." She said, "Just don't try to be too charming or too funny or too smart. Just be yourself." So, I don't know how to take that, but anyway, thanks for coming. The theme of this meeting is cooperative excellence. You've probably seen that on several different things. While we do strive for excellence in everything we do, we find ourselves in pretty challenging times as it relates to providing affordable and reliable electric service to you. An important role for me as your co-op general manager is to do everything I can to help keep your service affordable. I spend a lot of my time meeting with our wholesale power supplier, Great River Energy, with both state and federal legislators, arguing for, or in some cases against, issues that are important to our mission. And that mission is providing safe, reliable, and affordable electric service to you. I was in St. Paul earlier this month, and I'll be in Washington, D.C. next week, advocating on your behalf. If you came to any of our district meetings over the last couple months, or any of the last 3 years for that matter, I went into depth on a lot of these issues that are creating challenges, legislative and regulatory actions that are having an impact on us. I won't get into a lot of detail on that tonight. I'll spare you that, but just know that we take affordability and reliability of your service very seriously, and we'll continue to advocate on your behalf. There's no question the push for alternative energy is a good thing, but we need to be smart about that transition as we go down that path. We cannot remove always available power generation sources without having something suitable to take its place. Wind and solar have a place in the mix going forward, but the grid for reliability purposes needs dispatchable generation. There needs to be something we can fall back on when the wind doesn't blow or the sun doesn't shine. The state of Minnesota's carbon-free by 2040 mandate certainly has concerns about feasibility, but maybe more importantly about affordability. For the most part, reliance on alternative energy sources and retirement of fossil fuel generation means there'll need to be a very aggressive build out of transmission lines to move that energy from where it's generated to where it's ultimately used. The cost of this construction is going to be immense, and it will have an impact on rates. GRE is estimating that their future investment in regional transmission is in excess of $2 billion. And that's part of a MISO-wide plan of over $30 billion. It's expected that cost of electricity transmission could double in the next 10 years. So while transmission isn't the majority of our wholesale cost, it is a significant part of it. For 2025, we're expecting transmission costs to be over $13 million to Lake Country Power. So that's about 21% of our total wholesale power cost. At the last several annual meetings, I spent time talking about material costs and supply chain issues that were creating challenges for us. Last year, I told you that the average cost increase of the materials we use was up over 70% from pre-pandemic pricing levels. Standing here a year later, I can tell you that those increases appear to have stabilized, while there is still some uncertainty though. Unfortunately, it appears unlikely that the price and some of the delays are going to come back to normal, at least for the short run. New to the conversation this year though is uncertainty around the materials we use and the impact of some recent tariffs. While tariffs on energy imported from Canada is not going to have an impact on us, tariffs on the materials we use, whether that's steel or aluminum or copper, those certainly could. So we'll have to kind of take a wait and see approach on this if some of these tariffs are merely negotiating tactics or if they're going to be here to stay. Materials that historically had lead times in weeks or months, are now pushed out years. A substation transformer, and we buy one of these every year, there's a lead time on those of in excess of 3 years. Substation regulators and underground cable lead times are pushing 2 years. We're still waiting on delivery of large trucks that we ordered in 2022. These challenges have forced us to plan projects out 2 to 3 years in order to ensure that we have the materials to be able to do the job. So our engineering team's already planning work to be done in 2027 and beyond. We still have some instances where we have to place an order to ensure a slot in the production, but our vendors can't quote us the price that we're going to have to pay when it becomes available and we take delivery of that. You know, as a provider of an essential service, we're not able to sit back, and wait for this to blow over. These historic levels of inflation and delays appear that they're going to be with us for quite some time. The cost of providing electric service and the rising cost of that doesn't stop at materials either. Contracted labor, stuff where we would hire a contractor to do. Contracted labor for our construction projects has nearly doubled since 2019. In 2021, we made the wise decision to hire 10 additional line workers. Their goal and their job is to do large-scale construction projects and work on replacement of old, aged line. These crews will continue to save us money normally paid to contractors and enable us to replace the 75 miles of old line that we need to do every year to ensure system reliability. In a perfect world, we would be replacing in excess of 100 miles a year. But, we're mindful of the rate impacts of doing that if we ramp that up. So even at 75 years, that's a 100-year plan. We can't expect our lines to last any longer than that, and they may not last that long. So we expect these contractor cost savings from our in-house construction crews to increase as contracted labor costs continue to rise and contractors are getting harder to get. In fact, if we could not have contracted out all of our 2025 construction work due to the lack of availability of contractors to do that work. These construction crews are also available to assist with outage restoration, providing better response time during those emergencies. These additional line workers are a huge asset to your cooperative. As I speak to you today, we're in the process of recruiting the third and final employee for an in-house boring crew. Not boring in the sense of listening to me, boring like underground boring where we put the cable in the ground. This is the only body of work that we're 100% relying on contractors for. It's expected our in-house crew will be able to save us nearly 50% of the cost of having a contractor do that work. Biggest contributor to improving our reliability is our right-of-way management plan. 5 years ago, we completed our first full cycle of our integrated vegetation management, or IVM plan, excuse me, which is a 7-year rotation for tree clearing and right-of-way maintenance. We're now in the 5th year of our second cycle, and that commitment to that right-of-way maintenance is paying dividends. Hopefully you've noticed improved reliability in your electric service. With the vegetation growth in our region, it's critical that we clear and maintain that on a rotating basis. If we waited longer than 7 years, the vegetation growth makes that much more costly, much more difficult to maintain those corridors. In reality, we should probably be looking at a 6-year cycle for that work. But again, we're mindful of the rate impacts of doing that. It's my privilege to lead the roughly 140 employees we have here at Lake Country Power who ultimately work for each of you. They're your neighbors, your friends, sometimes your family. We reside in more than 30 local communities across our service territory. They're dedicated to meeting our mission of providing safe, reliable, and affordable electric service. The last few years have been difficult, and the future looks challenging. There's no other way to say that. Working here tonight, we have roughly 1/3 of our workforce helping with this annual meeting. So I'm proud to say our employees work very hard for all of us, myself included. They help members with outage restoration, new services, tree requests, resolve questions, process rebates, or visit your homes. I challenge you to find a better group of employees than the ones we have here at Lake Country Power. I appreciate their consistent good work, their sharing of ideas, their constant awareness of professionalism. So to our employees, I thank you. Last thank you, though, and I'll get off the stage, is thanks to you, our members. Thanks for your understanding and your support over another challenging year. Please know that our employees, our directors, and myself, as our general manager, will continue to do our best to work for you, our members. So thank you. I gotta do one more thing. I gotta poke a little bit of fun at lawyers, accountants, of which I am one, and electrical engineers. We've got a lot of electrical engineers in and around this auditorium, and it wouldn't feel right if I didn't poke a little fun at them. I typically do that. So a lawyer and an accountant and an electrical engineer are on death row, waiting to get executed. So the lawyer's up first, they're strapping him in. Anything you want to say? Lawyer says, no. All right, so he goes over, and executioner flips the switch, and nothing happens. So the couple executioners there scratching their heads, and the lawyer laughs. He's like, ha, ha, state law says if you failed on the attempt, I get to go free. They're looking at each other, and then some voice from above, he's right. You got to let him go. Oh, all right, they unstrap him and let him go. Accountant's up, they strap him in. You got anything you want to say? He's like, no, let's just get on with it. Same thing. Flip switch, nothing happens. Accountant laughs, unstrap him, off he goes. Electrical engineer's in the chair. Anything you'd like to say? And engineer's like, yeah. You know, if you swap those red and blue wires, you might be able to get this thing to work. All right. At this point, I want to bring up Tracy Wortman, our Chief Financial Officer. So thank you.